What's up, taters? This is Tree from treeoflogic.com, and oh boy, do I have a video for you today. We're going to look at a testimony that was in a committee. It happened yesterday, and we're going to look at a human rights president, something of the other. What's her name? Is Kelley Robinson. A human rights campaign president who's incapable of distinguishing between a human female and a human male. Go figure, right? So I was looking at this on Twitter and I was saying to myself, this is the reason why these people lose. When you really want to die on another hill in reference to what is a human female and a human male, even if you had to say biologically, to sit up here and to blur the lines, you would have to get rid of female or women's rights organizations and all of the work that a lot of the feminist movement, the first wave anyway, have done would have to be undone. And of course, I agree with Ted Cruz in reference to why have women's sports. But this is the thing that I noticed no one talks about in this committee, is that the men are not having this problem. No one is talking about that part. No one is saying, oh man, this trans man is coming and basically winning all the gold medals. They're basically dominating the biological male sports. You don't have that problem, and you will never have that problem. Another problem you won't have is trans men basically offending biological men in the men's locker room for obvious reasons, okay? So this is what I'm saying. It's like, how come no one is saying, well, if this is supposed to be like, if trans women are women and trans men are men, how come the things that biological women are having a problem with in their own space, their locker rooms, their bathrooms, and their sports, it's not a problem in the men's side? It's not, on the men's side. It's not a problem like that. They're not having this problem. They're not sitting here and saying, hey, what's this biological woman doing here? No, they're not having that problem. They're not losing anything to trans men at all or biological women. They're not losing any races at all. It's all on this side. But anyway, what amazed me is how this person just refused to answer direct questions. It reminded me of that Ketanji chick who's now, in the Supreme Court. Oof, good Lord help us all. Where she couldn't even define a woman. She couldn't even tell if she was a woman, even though she prided herself in saying that I'm a black woman and I'm going to be the first black woman. But yeah, all that goes out the window when it comes to the T community. But let's go and start off right here with this one, where Kelley Robinson condemned those putting targets on the back of trans kids. And I have to be careful because I know this is YouTube and they're pretty sensitive in reference to how we talk about this. But growing up, we never had trans kids. That just didn't exist. That just not happened. So for some reason, I wonder if certain books or certain lifestyles or certain indoctrinations if certain type of I guess you say agendas and reward systems were not in place, where you're giving that person or that child an opportunity to say, oh, well, you know what, it's your gender is really on the spectrum and it's really binary and blah blah blah. I bet you there really wouldn't even be an issue with trans kids. I promise you it wouldn't. Like, you have to understand, why is it that all decades and decades you didn't have this problem and now you do? So yeah, something's going on there. But anyway, let's go through these videos real quick because they're very fascinating, and I think you're gonna have a good time watching what I just saw earlier. So here we go.
Absolutely. And I think that, those real life examples of Pulse and Club Q show that this violent political rhetoric plus easy access to firearms equals real life harm, violence, death to my community. And while we're here talking about the issues that are truly affecting children, their health and their safety, The number one thing we should be talking about is gun violence. That is the number one killer of America's youth. But instead, we're
actually, that's not true. And I love the conflating here is, oh, well, the shooting at the Pulse is basically due to trans issues. Like, no trans person was killed at the Pulse nightclub, and I forgot what year that happened. I can't remember, but I like how they want to take other people's journeys, other people's pain, other people's tragedy, other people's struggle, and then imprint that upon themselves in order for them to push a victim narrative.
A target on the backs of trans kids. And when it comes to where this is coming from, we don't have to guess. I mean, the American Principles Project, their executive director said that they are targeting trans kids to, quote, score political points.
No, actually, to protect kids. To protect kids. Everything was fine until you guys start going after the kids. That's all that is. You did to protect the kids. Just leave them alone. If it's meant for them to grow up and do the transition thing, then let that be their choice when they get of age. They're not, it's amazing. They can't buy alcoholic beverages until they're 21. They're not legally able to drive, depending on some states 15, some states 16, okay? They can't get a tattoo. Now, that part I don't know. I don't know if it's 18 or 21. I think it differs in certain states. But, at 6 years old or 5 years old or even younger, 2 years old, you allow them to make something so irreversible at times if you actually introduce medication or surgery. And this is just not the way. You got to make sure this is what they want. And this is why we come in and to introduce legislation to protect them.
And every time we see these waves of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation move through states, over 500 bills just this year, we see it accompanied by campaigns of hate and bias online.
I don't know about the whole bias and hate. It has nothing to do with the legislation. You all have actually been very aggressive going after kids, and for some reason, it can't be justified. People, and especially your parents, you're trying to exclude the parents out of the decision for their own children. And then you got a nerve to go around talking about our children. No. There's no our children. That's her child, his child, their children. There's no our, okay? That the whole thing of it takes a community to raise a child, that's out the window, honey. We don't even trust other people's communities.
In Florida, when the Don't Say Gay or Trans bill was moving,
it was not named Don't Say Gay, by the way,
through, you saw a 400% increase in language of groomers online targeting the LGBTQ plus community. Let's be clear that this is instilling fear in people. This is perpetuating transphobia and homophobia.
Here's the thing. I don't want to hear this. Oh, phobia and obia. Here's the deal. Where's the lie? Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. If people are afraid of the whole thing going on with the children and you're coming, because right now we see justification for that. We see teachers actually indoctrinating their children. We see the effects that's having on children. We see what happens when they are brought in public, and then you want to open up clubs, nightclubs to children, where you have to be 21 years old in order to enter into these clubs. You want to open them now to children. And this is what's the agenda. People were saying that this is the agenda the whole time, and now you're just proving them correct. Anyway, let's move over from this one to this one right here. This was pretty good. This is Riley. What is Riley? I think it's Riley Gaines is her last name. No. Let's see. Dang, I know her first name is Riley. I'm so sorry if I forgot her last name. For some reason, they're not even putting it up here unless I'm looking past it. Let me read this. Senator Ted Cruz is in the Senate hearing of the LGBT civil rights, repeatedly asked witness Kelley Robinson, president of the Human Rights Campaign, if there's a difference between women and men, then refuses to let her answer the question. So she refused. Yeah, that's the thing too. Here's the hill she's gonna die on of whether she's not gonna answer the question on is there a difference between men and women. This is a good one too from Ted Cruz.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and
Kelley
men?
Gaines.
If the question is about trans women,
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
I mean, what I can say here is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition happened,
I'm going to try again.
the rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question.
To answer.
Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the conversation that we're having.
He didn't ask you to put it in context. Just answer the question yes or no. And someone who doesn't do this is intending on lying to you. I noticed that when I ask somebody a simple question that requires a yes or no, usually I just answer a simple question. I ask a simple question. And if they don't give it to me, then I'll go, okay, yes or no. I need to know blah, blah, blah. And they still don't do it. I know this person is being a malicious liar. And they're just trying to not answer the question because they have evil intentions. Every time. There's never been an exception to this rule.
That there are definitions related to sex.
Is that a yes? So I'm trying to get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech. Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're not answering that. Let me ask you this question then. Why do women's sports exist?
Ooh. If
you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that...
First of all, let me just say this. She's not going to answer this question, spoiler alert. And the reason why they will not abolish women's sports because they know that if they put little girls with little boys, the little boys would beat them every time. They had a soccer match where they had grown women play against grown men, and not once did the women score. Not once. I do believe the score was 12-0. 12 for the men, 0 for the women. So they know that there is a difference. For some reason, they refuse to acknowledge that in order to push an agenda and also to push harmful legislation as well as procedures on innocent children. That's all this is about. You know what I'm saying? To also weaken civilization.
Sex is different than gender.
Why
and I do believe that women's sports have a great value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right now.
Ms. Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But why have a separate category for women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record an article from Duke Law.
I love that. Like, you're not going to answer, so I'm just going to ignore you because all you're doing is blah, 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 blah. That was awesome. Let's watch that again.
To enter into the record an article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men.
That was great. So here's the last one right here. This is pretty interesting. I forgot where Kennedy is from. I think I hear a twang, but it could be wrong. But this is where the Serena Williams thing gets thrown in. I don't understand why people keep using that scenario. Serena Williams also agreed that men in her class and men, for the most part, can beat her in tennis. I don't understand why y'all think that Serena Williams can beat the top tennis. She can't even beat the top 20 male tennis players.
Male, female, boy, girl. Okay? Biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real-world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not.
Okay. I can beat any male who is 300 pounds. or has one leg. And when I say beat, I'm talking about run. I'm not a runner. When I was a police officer, if I couldn't catch you within the first, 4 to 8 seconds, you were gone, okay? So I am not good at that. And let's say, for instance, I'm really good at volleyball and I'm really good at basketball. But there's no way a man, I'm tall, I'm very tall, but I would even say a man who's 5'11" can just basically just destroy me in basketball, as well as if I was to play against a group of men that were younger than us, I'm sure they would tear us up in volleyball too. So it's like it's this whole thing. Oh, there's some guys I can beat in sports. Yeah, sure, depending upon the situation. But if they're at the same age, the same health level, okay, they would basically destroy you, and you know it. This whole thing of being disingenuous. This is amazing to me.
Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are shorter.
You don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many?
You could have asked for a example, because there is none. There is no sports right now where a biological woman beat a biological male. None. It does not happen. There's not one time, not one sports event, never, where even in high school, has a biological woman beat a biological male. Now, I have seen tiny little toddler, what it was like, there was like in the little children, they're in elementary school, where they would wrestle each other. I've seen that. Okay, where I think there was in a third grade or something like that. I've seen that. I've seen those little children wrestle with each other. You got the boys and the girls wrestle with each other. Sometimes it's a toss-up. Sometimes the little girls will win. Okay, but the little boy has not matured. Remember, women get into puberty and we grow up faster than boys. We mature faster than boys. And once you get up into that, I think once you get 10 or 11 or something like that, that's when they have to separate, because this is when you see the difference between the two.
Female members of the NBA, do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article
she
about
doesn't
men that
answer
think
the
that they
question
could beat
every
Serena
time.
Williams in tennis. Right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her.
They can, they will,
and it's just
and
not
they have.
the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience...
By the way, she was saying it so fast. What she said, both Venus and Serena lost to the 203rd ranked tennis player who was male. Oh my God, did this thing just transfer? Oh my goodness, I hate when it does that. So I'm gonna have to rewind that back. But this is what I want to say. Like, she said that both Venus and Serena lost to the 203rd tennis player who's a male. Okay, so now that's bad. So you're supposed to be the number 1 ranking tennis player, and you lose to the person who's 203rd? Couldn't be me. Let's see if we can find that space where I left her off.
Male, female, boy, girl. Okay.
I was a much better swimmer than. In terms of accolades, experience, my husband, he swam at university.
The case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility.
True.
When you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact.
It is.
And you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do.
No,
too,
she
and I don't
doesn't.
think
She wants it to be a
people
bad
ought to be
place.
discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't.
She's evil.
And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too.
Ooh,
And I think parents have rights.
that's right.
And
They
I think
do.
biological females have rights to
Yes.
be able to compete fairly in sport. In sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe
nobody's saying all cases. They're not saying all cases. They're not saying that a woman who's a professional basketball player can get beat by somebody in elementary school. They're not saying all cases. They're not saying someone, a male who is out of shape and hasn't touched a dumbbell can outlift a woman who's basically living in the gym and she competes competitively in strength training. They're not saying that. What they're saying is if you're getting a male counterpart that's on your level, who's supposed to be in your age range, your height, your weight class, as well as your division or your category, he will beat you. And I don't understand why, because if that was the case, then if it was not true, then that means that biological women who transition to be men would be able to mop the floor in any competition when it's dedicated to biological men. That doesn't happen. There is no record of that. It's always on the women's side because women are genetically weaker and men are genetically stronger than us. I don't know why you want to die on this hill. This is just amazing.
You could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases.
He's
where
an
all
old
men
man.
are
Hold on.
physically
Did she
superior
just
to all women
wait.
manage in all cases?
Did she just?
Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but
Okay, dude looks like he's in his 70s. He's clearly out of shape, and he doesn't play tennis. So why would you say that? So stupid. Jeez.
I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all
Never
women.
was the
And at the end of the
argument.
day, in this
Still,
conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women, who deserve to play in a gender.
Okay, I don't want to hear no more of this. So when you start talking about that, when you start doing the whole trans women are women, no, they're trans women. That's why they're called trans women. Okay. So, because if you have to say trans women are women, then, you know what I'm saying, you have to make a distinction between trans women and women. So when you say trans women are women, they're not, they're just trans women. That's why they're called trans women. They are biological men who transition to be trans women. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. I thought this was a very interesting video. I didn't want to talk about the submarine thing. It's a little depressing. So I'm hoping that when I wake up in the morning, so you guys should see this on Thursday. I'm making this on Wednesday night. I think hopefully when you see this, hopefully they would have been rescued, but we'll see. This is Tree from treeoflogic.com. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments below. And if you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.